Welcome to Pick It and Flick It podcast. I'm Natasha.
I'm Vox.
And this is the Halloween Extravaganza Part 3. Finale. We made it.
Thank God.
We did it all the way through.
We watched one movie every single day in October and recorded it and edited it and uploaded it.
Every day in October.
We didn't pre-record anything or plan for anything.
No. What did we watch today?
2022's Barbarian.
Yeah.
Went straight to, well, not straight to, but it came on, it got to HBO pretty quick. So
I feel like it literally just came out in theaters.
Well, if Luke was here, he'd be defending the fact that it went to theaters first and it should have stayed in theaters and had its run and then a period of time before it went straight to streaming. But for people like us who have very busy schedules, it's great.
Yeah,
it's great that it went to streaming.
The theater that often.
It's really, really good. Would I have liked to see this in the theater? Yeah. But
Yeah.
Am I mad that I watched it in the comfort of my home? No.
I know.
So,
we got to wake up and sit in our pajamas and eat breakfast while watching this.
yeah, and I was totally fine with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing bad about that.
I had no expectations for this movie.
Neither did I, and that's funny that you bring that up because we kind of talked about this in the beginning after the first 20 minutes or so went by, and I kind of called it right. The trailer was just a disillusion. It was a distraction for what the story actually is.
Yeah, the trailer was only the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yep, and they just wanted you to think that Pennywise was the bad guy and that girl gets to become the hero, and that's it. And there we go. So first of all, spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
We're going into it right now. So if you haven't watched it yet, which I'm hoping you have if you clicked on this video, but just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case some of you out there are like,
or if you want to listen to
just
see if you want, if you should watch it.
That's fair.
But we will be spoiling it. So
yes. So
if you don't like spoilers before you see movies.
Jess is a girl who's in
Tess.
Oh fuck. Tess is a girl who's in town in Detroit, local area.
Detroit.
Actually, only a half hour from where we live, so that's pretty interesting.
Wow.
And she's in town for an interview, gets to a Airbnb, only to find out that someone else has booked the Airbnb at the exact same time through a different website, which kind of alludes to, and I'm glad they followed up on this, but it kind of alludes to a little bit of a messy situation when it comes to the owners of the home, which we do find a little bit out about, right?
Yeah. So first things first.
Yeah.
If I showed up to an Airbnb and the key was not in the box and there was someone else in the house,
Yep.
I would leave.
So I'm glad, again, you brought that up because that is a point knock in and of itself. Tess, as a character, is not very smart, and that kind of sets her back as a character.
Oh, yeah. Because she does a lot.
I ended up hating her.
stupid.
I ended up not giving a fuck about her by the end of this movie.
I wasn't gonna be upset if she died.
No, me either.
And that, I hate that. I want.
There's
to
a point
be
where
able
I
to
thought
like the
she
character.
died, and I was like, oh, thank God. And then she didn't, and I was like, fuck. But yeah, I definitely didn't give a shit about her as the movie progressed.
Yeah,
because of the poor decisions she makes.
Tess and Keith end up kind of flirting with each other.
Yeah,
It seems
Keith is
they're gonna-
Skarsgård, by the way. He's the
Yeah.
Pennywise I mentioned earlier, in case you were confused by that.
Yeah.
What's it? Is that Alexander?
No, Bill.
Oh, that's Bill.
Alexander
Excuse me.
is, I think, the dad.
Oh, is
No.
Alexander the Man in Black? Randall Flagg from The Stand?
Let me see.
One of the There's too many Skarsgårds in Hollywood right now. Anyways, the dude who plays Pennywise, Bill Skarsgård, is the character Keith in this movie.
Oh, no, the dad isn't Alexander. Alexander Skarsgård is...
Randall Flagg?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
back to yesterday's episode,
Oh.
he's from True Blood, just like Ryan Quanten.
Oh, just you're a little looped together. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
So they're flirting with each other, and I'm glad that they didn't make him the bad guy,
And I'm glad that they didn't
because
fuck.
that would have been too predictable. Why?
Because I feel like the character building was really nice in the beginning here, aside from, of course, aside from Tess's, but her story arc goes down the drains later on. But I liked the fact that he was just I'm from Detroit. I live in New York now, but I'm back here. We're looking for new property. I'm in a band. You should interview me for this thing that you're going to be doing.
Yeah, he was super polite.
And he was like, you didn't drink your tea. I realized that. It was probably a little weird. A stranger made you tea behind your back. No problem. But I have this bottle of wine. Do you want to open it together so that you know I'm not going to drug you? So it was like his character was really, really cool.
Yeah.
The problem with him is the same problem that Tess has, is that they just make dumb decisions. Because as the story goes on, of course, you see this in the trailer if you've watched it, some creepy shit starts happening in the home. Doors are closing and locking on their own. There's a mysterious doorway that's found in the basement, and it kind of goes...
There's multiple mysterious doorways.
Yeah, but it goes into like the larger picture, and he as a character is just like, oh, you're talking so fast after she discovered the door in the basement.
Yeah, he was being weird.
Really weird.
That's where I thought that like they were gonna make him
I know.
the bad guy.
And again, the decision making after the good character building of both of these characters was just like, what are you doing? Like, why are these characters making, and I get it, they're just acting, but like, why are these characters making these decisions? Don't you think they would have had like some sort of larger input on what they're doing? I don't know. It's just break the fourth wall for a minute and think about it. It was really weird.
Then it wouldn't be like the movie, you know. If
well, no,
the decisions were made.
Well, we're gonna jump ahead a little bit because I'm gonna lose this thought if I don't say it now.
Okay.
It would have been the same movie because Keith and Tess would have both been thrown in the cage if they went down together instead of having Keith's brains smashed out on the basement wall. Like,
yeah, you're right.
It would have been the same situation, and then we wouldn't have had to bring AJ in. Like, it could have been Keith and Tess the entire time.
Yeah, but AJ had to be brought in.
And I understand why, and I'm not mad about that character, but, like, sticking with the first two characters still, we could have seen their relationship develop. They're already flirtatious with each other. They're already building a friendship and possibly a romantic one later on. If they would have fucked in the beginning, it would have been like, all right, great. So now they're just like hooking up, or it's a one night stand kind of thing, and it takes away from the emotional grasp of what happened with Keith later on.
Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't do that, he just ran down into the tunnels. It was just a weird decision. They should have went down together. They could have both.
But she didn't want to go down.
I understand, but she went down after him anyways. So they could have both gone down together to check it out, both been captured, and then we see their friendship, their romantic relationship build as they're trying to escape the craziness that's happening in the basement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They still could have kept them together and then still brought AJ in.
Yeah, and they could have. So we'll go into AJ now.
AJ
Son of a bitch.
is Justin Long.
I didn't even know he was in this movie.
Me neither. So that's our second Justin Long movie on this Halloween extravaganza.
And spoiler alert, the first one we watched was terrible, and I'm glad that this one wasn't that bad. So a little bit of redeeming factors for Justin Long movies.
Yeah. So we Keith gets killed, and then Tess looks at the mother or whatever.
Yeah, okay, so hold on. We'll talk about that for a second.
Okay.
The Barbarian, right? First of all, this movie could have just been called like Tunnels or Caves, and I think it would still have like a really good
but
outcome.
Tunnels would be a stupid name for a movie.
Whatever. Have you ever seen As Above, So Below?
Yeah.
Kind of a stupid name for that,
No,
and it
it's
still
not.
did great. But
Tunnels is a stupid name for a movie.
I'm just saying, like, you could call a movie anything now, and as long as it's like a one-word, like 2-syllable thing, people are gonna freak out about it. Like they're doing this one. Like, oh my god, it is so eerie. It's Barbarian. You know, where's the Barbarian? I don't see.
Maybe she's the Barbarian.
Well, obviously, she's the Barbarian, but I didn't see Arnold Schwarzenegger running around with a sword. You know, Conan the Barbarian. No.
No.
You never watched that with your dad?
No.
Shame on you. Shame on him.
Or Dave the Barbarian.
Dave, yeah, I wanted to find Dave the Barbarian for our thumbnail, but I couldn't find a good PNG of him, and I had to scramble to make this so we can get it out on time. But anyways, so the very end of, and this is kind of an anthology movie.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of an anthology thing going on here, which I really liked. And then it all came together at the end, and I kind of predicted that right away. After, or at the end of Keith and Tessa's story, from what we know, a giant, nude, crazy, kind of Hills Have Eyes looking inbred,
Yeah.
comes out of the shadows and smashes his skull on the basement wall right in front of Tess. And she just stands there.
Yeah.
And then it cuts away to Justin Long's character.
Yeah, and both you and I are like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. It's like
Another
Justin
Justin Long movie?
Anyway,
Because
so go
he's always just a piece of shit. Every movie that he's in,
And you know what's funny?
he's not a good person.
No. And you know what's funny, though, is I've watched interviews with him. He was on Good Mythical Morning recently, like 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Of course, because Justin Long is taking up your
He's just
October.
everywhere. And he's a really great guy. Like, he seems really, really cool.
Okay.
Like, genuine person.
Yeah, because didn't he end up being, like, he was a New Girl, and didn't he end up being a piece of shit?
He was
in
a
New Girl?
fucking joke in New Girl, yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess if you're a good guy, it's easy for you to play a bad guy because you avoid all of, like, the bad guy tendencies. I don't know. But that,
yeah.
and I guess that just means he's a good actor. If someone can make you hate them, that I feel like that means that they're a good actor.
Yeah, and we've said that time and time again. If I hate you as a character, you're doing a great job.
Right.
For sure.
So he is accused of raping this not co-star of his, but some actress.
Yeah,
that he's-
it would be a co-star.
Yeah,
Because
co-star.
he's like an actor trying to get into Hollywood, and they got a new TV show greenlit, and they did a
Okay.
pilot episode.
Okay, I didn't know if he was an actor or if he was like a producer or something. So he is accused of that, and then he's like, well, I'm going to go to my house in Michigan and sell it,
Yeah.
or Detroit and sell it. He's like, you're in Detroit, Michigan? Is there another Detroit?
I'm sure there is
Yeah.
somewhere.
So he goes to Detroit, and the house, spoiler alert, ends up being the house that was rented out to
Oh, yeah.
Tess and Keith, which, how did that happen?
Well, it seems like he is a property owner, and he has multiple properties. They talked about liquidating his properties in Michigan.
No, but how did, like, it never got explained how they both were booked together.
Oh, yeah, they did explain that. He booked through another site.
Oh, because they booked through different.
And then Tess booked through Airbnb, and he booked for like Stay Now or something like that. And
I guess.
and then it's explained when he shows up in Detroit to get the keys for the home that like the office is in disarray. The
Oh.
person that they're talking to has like no idea what's going on because he goes in there and it's 2 weeks. He says, or it's alluded to that it was 2 weeks since Tess and Keith were there.
Right, and they said that they don't clean until right before the next people come, which is wild to me.
That is
because
again showing that the company
yeah, I guess
is
okay.
in shambles.
I guess you were looking more into it than I was.
Yes,
I was just kind
it
of-
was very explanatory that this company is shit and does not manage their properties correctly.
Yeah.
And then the property owner shows up, AJ, and he's like, "What the fuck? There's people's stuff here. Like the doors left open, the lights are on. Like what's going on?"
Yeah,
So it kind of alluded to that. Which it was fine. It was subtle. It didn't have to be spoon
Yeah.
fed.
I guess. Yeah, I guess
You might have
were-
needed it spoon fed, but I didn't.
You were fuck off.
Yeah, right.
You were looking further into it than I was, I guess.
I needed answers.
Yeah, I wasn't looking like that. But he ends up going downstairs because he hears a thud in the basement. And he goes through. Oh, and here's another thing that makes him a piece of shit. He's Googling if you can use a basement or hidden
Hidden rooms.
as square footage in the house, and he finds out that you can't, but you can include it, but you have to add it in the small details, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. it is.
Anyway,
Right.
so he's measuring the basement to add it into the square footage, and
So with his character, that's all to me. That detail didn't do anything for me. What did do something for me
that
is that
definitely did.
he ran out to the bar immediately after finding his house was still being partially lived in. Got drunk, told his friend that he did rape her, and then
he says
came home and left her a voicemail.
At first she said no, but I'm very persuasive.
Right. So it was building the piece of shit. Yeah, it was building the piece of shit persona that he needed to have for his character because that played a bigger role later on, especially in the end of the movie, right?
Yeah.
So he measures the basement. That's irrelevant. What really starts to push forward is the fact that tasteful titty lady in the basement just snatches him and throws him in a pit.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, the woman I thought was dead, Tess, is in the pit in the basement. And these tunnels go on forever.
Yeah.
Like,
well, in movies when someone's death is not shown,
yeah, I know.
You assume that they're still alive.
I know. And I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I shouldn't assume that they just die. I should assume that they're still alive. But
Exactly.
I didn't like her. So there's that. And you know what's funny is I didn't like anyone in this movie. I didn't like a single character.
Oh.
I thought the character building was really good.
I liked the homeless guy. What was his name?
The problem with that character, and okay, so we missed this factor real quick, but there's a guy that's chasing after Tess when she comes back from the job interview, and he's like yelling at her to get out of the house, but he doesn't explain why she needs to get out of the house. He's just banging on the door, get out that house, get out that house. And it's like, you should say, get out of the house, it's dangerous.
Right.
Get out of the house, there's a giant naked baby mama in the basement that wants to eat your brains or kill you or
right. Instead, they just make him seem like a crazy homeless
man.
Man.
It's just really strange. But what did I call? What the fuck did I call?
That he would save her.
That he would save her at the end.
Oh yeah, we didn't go back to a flashback. This movie was.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, but it's good. All over the place.
And I want to stop here because I feel like we're going to get into every single detail, and we'll talk about it for an hour, and we shouldn't do that.
Okay.
The flashback being we see the original owner of the home. He stalks women.
And back in the 40s or 50s, the neighborhood that he lived in was
pristine.
Really nice.
Yeah. Well, it was the Reagan administration, so I want to say 60s. But I can't.
60s?
You look that up. I'm going to explain this real quick.
Okay.
Long story short, he goes to the hardware store and asks for a bunch of baby supplies as well as clearly murder supplies, including jumpsuit, latex gloves, and plastic sheets. He is stalking a woman, so we know that he is stalking and abducting women. And then when he goes home, his neighbor real quick is like, hey, by the way, we're getting the fuck out of here because the neighborhood's going to hell. And he goes inside, and we hear a woman screaming in the basement when he opens the basement door. End of story. It explains the fact that...
I would have loved to see more of that.
I would too, just for the sheer fact that there's movies like Hostel and Kidnapped and Taken and stuff where we see a lot of that side of things, and it's always kind of intriguing. But there is a room in the basement that we see early on with Tess that has a camera in it, a blood-covered bed, and then like a blood handprint on the wall that explains it all pretty... it's pretty straightforward. He was recording himself raping and beating women, and that was that. The big turn is that AJ doesn't want to suck on the big, dirty, hairy fucking baby bottle that's being given to him while they're in the cage, allowing Tess to escape. And then as he's running around, not going outside for whatever reason, he decides to go deeper into the tunnels. He finds a room that has the old guy in it.
Yeah.
Who has all of the videotapes of him that he's recorded labeled. The one that we get a preview of, we don't see, but we hear is the, redheaded gas station lady or something like that. Which is so ironic that he just makes them so impersonable. One was called Puker.
Yeah.
One was called, which I think would be funny because I hope she puked all over him. One was called like Screamer, and the one was called like Stephanie M. So like he's just getting as many women as he can. But
right. So it says the Reagan administration was 81 to 89.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That late? So what was the 80s?
That movie, like the scenery seemed way older. Like it definitely seemed like 50s or 60s.
And it did seem 60s, but it said on the radio Reagan administration.
And I guess 40. He said 40 years, which 40 years ago was the 80s.
Yeah, really. I thought I thought it was later than that, but maybe it was just because of the aesthetic that it kind of made it seem like.
Well, in Detroit, I think Detroit had already started going downhill by then. But
Detroit,
maybe that was
Detroit
the
went
beginning of
downhill after the riots, and I'm sure that was probably right around the same time.
Oh, yeah.
It was the 80s, so whatever.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, the big thing that I need... So here's the questions that I wanted answered before we go into the finale here, because that was like the third story in the anthology. It was a flashback. The big thing that I need answered here is, how was he getting food? Because he was locked in a room that had a bell connected to it. So I'm assuming and it only showed it for a minute, but there was like a handle next to his bed, and I'm assuming he could pull on that to ring the bell for the baby mama to come in, right?
Yeah, she fed him that way, I'm assuming.
And she had milk. It most likely wasn't her milk, but she had milk. So I'm wondering, like, if someone, if the renters were coming in and she would go upstairs at night and take stuff out of the pantry or whatever it may be, because the homeless guy did mention that she only goes out at night. She stays down in the tunnels, without, or during the day.
Right.
And goes out at night. So, I don't know. There's a lot of questions with that, and that's what I want more answers to.
Yeah, this movie definitely could have been longer.
Yeah, it was only, an hour 40?
Yeah.
It wasn't too bad. And it went pretty quick. So, but that was the weird thing. The last act, part 4 of the anthology, where all the pieces start to come together, was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Acting got real shoddy. Shots got really strange. Like, there's a scene where Justin Long's character AJ is about to get his ass beat, and we know it's coming, but like it snaps from him on the ground to all of a sudden like in the air by the baby mama's hands.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what in the, like, it was unsettling how strange that cut was. And it was either, you could tell that they were either running out of time or running out of money, and they needed to wrap her up.
Yeah.
Because it does a real close special effect that looked terrible, where her fingers go into his eyeballs, and
it's oozing.
Yeah, but it didn't look. There was like no blood, and it was like, you turned away during this, but I remember, because I've seen this movie several times. In 28 Weeks Later, there is a scene where the dad gets infected and the mom is strapped in the hospital bed, and he climbs up on her and starts punching her in the head and then shoves his fingers or his thumbs into her eyeballs.
Yeah, I can't do that.
And blood squirting all over the place, and it was a really good special effect. Like, you could see his thumbs in the eye sockets, and I liked that a lot. This scene with the baby mama, the mother, and
Baby
and AJ, it didn't do it.
Yeah.
And
and that's, I mean, like you said, like, I typically look away, but I didn't look away.
It wasn't bad. It was bad in the sense that it didn't make you squirm. But
Yeah.
you know what? This movie didn't need gore.
No.
There was one good scene, and it was haunting because the flashlight was kind of all over the joint, right? And that's when Keith's getting his head smashed against the wall. Like, it was real brief. You could tell that it was supposed to be like a quick thing that's happening to make you be afraid. And that was all we needed. I didn't really wish that. Oh, you know what other fucking shitty gore thing was? Is when the hobo got his arm ripped off.
Oh, I didn't hate that.
That was terrible. And then she beats him with the arm. Like, they tried making that funny. And I don't like that they made that funny. Because he literally, AJ, they're sitting around a fire in like a silo looking thing.
After AJ shot Tess.
Yeah, and that was another like partially irrelevant thing that happened because it didn't affect her at all. It made her limp a little. She gets shot in the guts.
Yeah, and she's fine.
If you get shot in the guts, not only are you going to bleed out, the shit that is inside of your body will go all over your other organs and will kill you very fast. Like, that's an actual thing that happens. That's why in the military, if you get shot in the guts, the medics aren't called for you in war. They leave you because you can't be helped. And she's just running around like, no problem. Hated that. This last act is terrible.
Yeah.
But the homeless guy, what's his name, Andre? He goes, I've been here for 10 plus years. And that motherfucker,
years.
whatever. And that motherfucker has never come in here. And then all of a sudden, she's Kool-Aid's man's like through the fucking wall, picks him up, and rips his arm off and beats him with it. Beats him to death with it.
Which sucks because he saved her and was like, come to the water tower, blah, blah, blah. And that's because that's when she's trying to get the police to let her in the house.
The police. That was the other thing. Like, this movie just screamed police bad.
Yeah.
Police bad. No one cares.
Yeah, because she had called 911.
They didn't give a shit.
And they were like, we have no units to send out.
We don't care.
And then they hung up on her.
Yep.
What?
And then when she actually gets them to come out,
they think she's like
a crackhead.
Yeah.
Because it's in a bad neighborhood. Again.
If you think someone's a crackhead, then arrest them or drug test them or something. But she could have told the cops, like, hey, if you can just let me in, I can show you my ID and whatever. But instead they were just like, we have somewhere else to be. There's shots fired elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. It was strange. And I hate to go back to it and get political a little bit, but early on, we watched our second movie was Candyman. Mm-hmm. And we talked about the police situation at the end of that movie. And it was literally, again, it was kind of a police bad situation. But the police just came out and started shooting anyone that was in the area, right? And it was mainly black people. The thing that I liked about this movie, the way that it did, I didn't like the message, but the way that I liked that it was lined up was it was a black cop in a black victim. And the cop was still like, we don't give a shit. Right. So it was just highlighting like police bad, they don't care, you're on your own, and then the scene was over.
Right.
Don't even put it in there.
Well, and that's the thing, like Detroit police, like I don't know. I don't think they're bad.
I don't think any police are bad, but that's just me.
Yeah, but I mean in like knowing Detroit police officers, I guess.
No, and I think that in any situation, if someone says I've been held hostage for I don't know how long, and there's someone else being held hostage, possibly being murdered right now, they would take that way more seriously than they did. And
instead
these two
of being like
the one cop didn't have any lines. He sat in the car and then he stood next to the car in the two scenes that he was in. Like that was it. And then the other cop was just like, "You're a crackhead. Done. Right. We got to go." And got in the car and left. It was pointless.
Like they could have just not even had the cops in
Don't
there
even bring the cops in because you know why? It means that there's more fear induced that there is no help coming. That was already established in the first 25 minutes of the movie. There's no help coming.
Right. You've already called 911 and they said that no units are available. And now you see the actual police and they won't help you. So it's just like, all right, like it's another,
it was just
like you said, cops bad situation.
Yeah. Did not like that. Also didn't like the strange finale that happens where Justin Long's character just throws Tess off the roof of the water tower, like effortlessly. And then it zooms out.
Slid.
But it zooms. This is why I'm saying this.
Okay.
It zooms out and there's railings. There's railings all around. And then he grabs onto the railing and looks over at Tessa.
Well, maybe she slid.
Tess and the mother's body on the ground.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, she slid underneath the railings. You got two arms, bitch. There is no way that those railings were put up there so wide that if you slipped, you couldn't grab anywhere on them. That's why the railings are there. They're safety mechanisms.
Yeah.
Grab onto a motherfucker.
Well, and then another Justin Long or AJ being an asshole, he says, well, that's all I could do. You actually started to slip and like.
I didn't actually want to let you go.
Yeah, once again, making it not his fault.
Yeah. The ending of this is basically she gets thrown off the water tower and the mother jumps after her.
And she lands on the mother.
Both of which are terrible CGI. Terrible. And I get what they were trying to do. It just didn't go well. And what they should have done is had the Tess slips, quotations, slips, and then the mother from Justin Long's point of view jumping over the edge. So that way we didn't have to see her head on diving to the ground and just have her jump over the edge and then him looking over the edge in one big swoop.
Yeah.
So that way, the special effects would have been easier because you can just jump off there onto a pillow and then reset the scene, and you're good. Instead of putting all of this CGI nonsense in there.
You hate CGI.
I do. Just fucking do it in a different way. Use shots creatively. Use special effects and practical effects creatively. Don't do this CGI nonsense. This isn't Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to have falling to the death and zooming through someone's eyeball when they fly past the camera. Like, fuck off with that stuff. It was very poorly done. And then to continue on to the eyeball squishing, that's AJ's death scene where obviously his eyeballs are squished in, but then he tears his head apart.
Yeah.
Which was okay.
So I wish, because you had said this, you said Tess is going to pick up the gun and kill him. I wish she would have killed him.
Me too. Yeah, I wish she would have just shot him, and then maybe Mom could have been like, goo goo gaga, motherfucker, and lets her go.
Yeah.
Instead, Mom rips AJ's head apart and then kind of goo goo gagas literally at Tess, and then Tess shoots her and then gets up and walks away.
Yeah.
Credits roll.
And then it keeps jumping back to her walking.
Yeah, I was half expecting something different.
Yeah,
but
I was definitely expecting something else to happen.
But did you notice that every time it cut back, so it was like credits roll, 3-second scene. Credits, 3-second scene. And it did that 3 times. And every time they showed her, the sky got lighter.
Okay.
So it was like the sun was rising, night was over, new day.
Yeah.
Cool, I guess. I just wished I would have seen her like something else. And I wanted to bring this up too. You know what we never got an answer on? 2 things. Where's Keith's car?
Yeah.
Where's Keith's car? He was a weird dude. He's just walking everywhere. There was no bike. There was no car. What the fuck? The second thing, why did it focus on the serpent, the snake necklace hanging from the rearview mirror in Tessa's car while Justin Long's character got in there for so long? It was like It was like a minute and a half
focused
scene.
on the serpent like a few times throughout the movie.
Yeah, it was like a minute and a half scene.
Maybe it is a symbol of something.
I have no clue. Very strange. I didn't mean for us to pick apart this or like explain this entire movie, but we did. So if you're still with us, thanks for that. I think that we can quickly do a review.
Oh.
Or a rating.
Historically, serpents and snakes represent fertility or a creative life force.
Oh.
So another thing is the guy that was in the basement
Yeah.
would rape these women, have babies with them, and then he had babies with the babies.
Yeah, so it was like a double negative.
Incest, yeah.
Very much so Hills Have Eyes. Very much so. She reminded me of Wreck. I know you've never seen that movie. But
Yeah.
So, have you ever seen Quarantine? Something. The lady from the White Chicks who says Tina the Talking Tummy.
Okay.
She's in that movie.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
What's it called? Quarantined? Anyways, it is that's the American version of a movie called Wreck, and I believe Wreck is like Spanish. Really good. We should watch it. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. I've watched it a few times, but it's basically like same thing, zombie-ish kind of takeover. But she looks identical to that. Identical to it.
I have seen Quarantine.
It is Quarantine?
Yeah.
I fucking knew it. So Quarantine is the remake or the American version of Wreck. So a few different little twists, but very much remind me of that. So it did pretty good with the like inbred thing, the big teeth, the bulging like skull. And when you say barbarian, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that.
I guess what else do you call it?
Right. Baby mama.
Baby mama.
She was obsessed with having babies. She just wanted them to be babies, which was very strange. Dark, disturbing, unsettling. Did really good work with that creature.
Yeah.
Really good work. I mean, seeing her more, I didn't like the night scene, that end scene. We saw everything about her.
Yeah.
From eyes, nose, tits to belly button and below. I didn't need to see that much of her when she was in the shadows the whole time and only showing up in like flashes of light. Very spooky. Very spooky. Above the cage when her hair kind of like dangles through the through the grate. Really good. Creepy shit. So again, I think this movie suffers from showing too much and explaining too much. Like what we wanted more answers to, you never gave.
Yeah,
and what
I feel
we
like it didn't explain too much. It didn't explain enough.
Well, I think it explained too much of the stuff that didn't need to be explained.
Yeah,
is what
you're
my
right.
point was. Here at Pick It and Flick It, we rate our movies two different ways. Pick being something that you should watch, a flick being something that you shouldn't. And then we give it a scale, 1 to 10. 1 the worst, 10 being the best. It's Halloween. We sat down and watched a brand new movie. Is it worth a pick or a flick?
I'd pick it.
I'm going to pick it too. There was a few errors, obviously, in the half hour that we've talked about it. You could tell what we think is wrong and what isn't, but a good movie.
Yeah.
Here's my last thing before we give our rating, our number rating. Good movie, good horror movie?
Yeah.
I'm going to say no.
Really?
I didn't think it was a good horror movie.
Okay.
I thought it was a great movie. Like, there's no doubt about it. But I don't necessarily think it was a good movie.
What'd you give it out of 10?
Ladies first. I just did my whole spiel. Give me something. I know.
I'm struggling.
Okay.
It's another movie that I want to give a half.
Can't give halves. So if a half means that you have to round up or round down, you should decipher that. So if you're ever feeling this is a half, you automatically round up or round down. You should just make
I usually automatically round up.
Okay, well then there you go. So round it up, whatever it is.
6.5, so I'd give it a 7.
Okay. I'm also going to give it a 7. I feel like that's like the most fair rating I can give.
Yeah, because I feel like 6 is too low.
6 is too low, but it's definitely not an
But
8.
8 is too high.
Yeah, it's not an 8 at all. The whole like performance was really good. The plot was messy.
But it also, like, with how prevalent like Airbnbs are right now.
Yeah, I get what they were doing.
Yeah.
But like it was messy. There were still holes in this thing left and right, and what it tried to fill in wasn't what we needed. You know, it should have been filling in a couple of different things. Why did the guy kill himself? He was like 150 years old.
Well, he was not that old.
Oh my God, he looked like it. But
well, if he was like in his 30s or 40s in the 50s or in the 80s,
yeah, he was probably like late 70s, early 80s. Regardless, why did he kill himself?
Right.
Why?
That was strange.
He did bad things, but like.
All of a sudden, someone sees him and watches his work, and then he just kills himself.
Right. Really strange. Really, really strange. I totally get why people are kind of freaking out about this movie, though. I totally get it.
Yeah.
I get why people are like, oh, my God, you got to see this
Well,
movie.
especially because a lot of, like we've stayed in a few Airbnbs, a lot of Airbnbs have rooms that you cannot get into.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, like, locked.
Yeah. And I get it. So I get why there's some hype over it. Take my criticism, take your criticism, all with like a little bit of, watch it for yourself.
Right.
Watch it for yourself, and hopefully let us know what you think, and we'll go from there.
Well, and if you've listened all the way through, thank you for listening. We appreciate it.
I don't think a single person has listened to all the way through all 31 of these.
Well, maybe.
Not even Luke has done that. First 15 and he's out. He listens to the first 15 and he's out. And then just look at Letterboxd to see what we actually rated it.
Exactly.
This could be it for a minute.
Yeah, hopefully it's not, but not up to me.
I give it at least 2 months. We got holidays coming up. This is like the start of the holiday season.
We're not going to do a Christmas special?
Who knows? You never really know. You just never really know. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. We did it.
Woo!